Welcome as you all come in. Thank you for making the time to join us today. People are making their way in from the waiting room, and we'll give just about 2 minutes for people to come in, and then we'll get started because we do know time is of the essence. And for those of you that are here, if you're able, I don't know if the chat is enabled, but it'd be great if we can see which entities are represented here with us today. We'll also, just to preempt you, we'll do just a couple of polls throughout our time here together, just to also help guide the discussion to make it impactful for what you all are most interested in. So you can look out for that. All right, City of Spokane. City of Spokane. We love Spokane. Extended forward family there. All right, City of Baltimore. All right. All right, we have East Coast, Cumberland County, Maine. Wonderful. Oh, wow, Georgia, Forsyth County. Wonderful. All right, Saline County, Arkansas. I love it. This is well represented group here. Okay, we're gonna have some fun today. Okay. Wonderful. All right, St. Clair County, Michigan. All right, we well represented. We have Bellevue. All right, West Coast, Midwest, East, and the South here. Wonderful. All right, Eastern Long Island. I heard it's really, really hot out there right now. Okay, all right. Porter County, Texas. Now there's hurricane that came through Texas while as well there. Okay, it's 11:02. We're going to get started to respect time. Welcome, welcome. I'll adjust this. Okay. All right, so I'll get started. My name is Asia Brown. I am Strategic Impact Partner at Forward and also former mayor of the city of Compton in California. We're really excited to have you all join us today to dive into an insightful discussion with industry experts on navigating ARPA deadlines and also exploring just proven effective strategies to administer high impact programs. I get the pleasure and the privilege to introduce our team here today. They will do self-introductions, but I will hand it over to Damian Pipkins, Program Manager 2 at the Los Angeles County Department of Consumer Affairs, and we'll just round robin.
Hello. Okay,
Yes.
I'm Damian Pipkins with LA County. I've been here for a couple of years. I have CDBG experience with the city of Inglewood, which you see on the SoFi football games every now and again. And I've been managing the ARPA programs here for the county for domestic violence, VITA, the tax services, and financial coaching, and been working with Forward on 2 of those projects, and they've been doing great work for us.
Thank you for being with us, Damian. I'll also introduce Rebecca Bellevue.
Hi, everybody. I'm Becca Belleville. I work for the City of St. Louis Office of the Treasurer. I run the Guaranteed Basic Income program here, which is reliant on ARPA dollars. I've been in this position for 9 months, and previously I'm from Baltimore, where I worked with the city school system on equity work. So excited to be here. Excited to see Baltimore representation.
I heard that cheer come from Rebecca. That makes sense now. Okay, well, we'll introduce Kelsey Martin, our Director of Client Services at Forward.
Thanks, Asia. Hey, everyone. I'm Kelsey Martin, Director of Client Services here at Forward, and I oversee a majority of the programs that we administer here, working with lots of different cities, counties, states, nonprofits nationwide, administering a lot of their ARPA-based programs. And actually, prior to that, I was working for the city of Spokane, so shout out Spokane representation that's here, in the Housing and Human Services Department, administering their full COVID portfolio.
Thanks, Kelsey. Obviously, we have a well-experienced team here, so we're excited to hop in and have a great conversation here today. I'll share just a high level about Forward. And as we begin forward, our DNA is in data. We started out as a data company in 2015. We were delivering really powerful data dashboards to our partners and empowering jurisdictions around the country to make data-informed decisions with the metrics we were able to provide. And so when the pandemic hit, our customers said, look, we love the data, but our house is on fire. We need assistance getting money out to people and families quickly. And so we began to administer those programs for them in order to help connect communities with vital resources and aid and support. And so we expanded our platform to really provide a one-stop portal that's very powerful and dynamic to assist programs with getting resources into the hands of families and businesses, and also to double down and extend our programmatic partners' ability to understand where their investment was going, which neighborhoods were being assisted, and also to just be transparent and accountable with public dollars. And so to date, we have dispersed over $1 billion for states, cities, counties, local governments, and assisted over 300 families and small businesses. Tina, I'm not able to see our slide deck, but I was just kind of going forward. I don't know if you all are able to see it. Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. I'll keep going. Okay, so the American Rescue Plan Act, we're here today to talk about ARPA, obviously a federally enacted law in 2021 when we were in the midst of crises to provide direct relief and support for recovery efforts that were really being led at the ground level during the pandemic. And so ARPA aims to mitigate the impacts of the pandemic by providing various funding to sectors, your communities, including public health, economic recovery, education, and infrastructure. ARPA has been a much needed lifeline for communities, really helping to stabilize the impact of COVID on our communities, various from public health all the way down to infrastructure and everything in between, obviously helping to stabilize families. There's also the focus of just equitable recovery. We know that jurisdictions that were hardest hit were those that were under-resourced. And so ARPA is a great opportunity to provide that direct relief that's flexible, but also still is one-time funding. And so just want to highlight, which I know we all kind of know the writing on the wall, that there are deadlines coming forth to obligate funds December 31st of this year. And then the expenditure deadline is December 31st, 2026. So we have about a 2.5-year window to make the most use of these funding sources. There's also the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, ERA 1 and 2, that also must be spent by September 30th, 2025. And then there's the Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund, which was this new deadline was established by the U.S. Department of Treasury for December 31st, 2026. And so we know that this is to spot fill those infrastructure programs. And then lastly, the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund also has an impending deadline for obligation September 30th, so coming up quickly. And then just a few things to consider relative to obligation, and we'll talk more about this with the team today, but they are temporary funds. We know that because they are not recurring funds, that many jurisdictions are more conservative with how they're programming these funds. Others that are more bullish are using these funds to really help spot fill or launch pilot programs to help really establish and marker for a policy perspective for some of these evidence-based interventions. So definitely two pathways of opportunity, just really depends on the community, the need, the leadership. So just wanted to touch on that. And then also just scanning and partnering efforts. Anyone in public service recognizes that it takes teamwork to make the dream work. So you all are experts in leveraging partners. And so really thinking about a regional collaborative effort and consortium. I know that there was some really powerful regional work happening in Washington with Spokane and Bellevue and others. And so I know that you all are regionally partnered across the nation. And so just thinking about those regional opportunities to share resources, to share data, and also to share technology are just wonderful opportunities to pursue today. And then lastly, just the consideration that these funds do have priorities, and there are some eligibility restrictions, although they're very flexible, just really ensuring that these funds are utilized for the appropriate use and that the requirements are being executed and then also tracked is very important. So we'll talk about that today as well. And then before we go further, want to just grab some data from you all so that we can really have an effective conversation for you all today. And so there's a poll going forth now to just really understand what is your biggest challenge for managing ARPA funds. So I want to give you all about a minute to answer these questions. Well, here it is. I'll grab some water in the meantime. Oh, I was going to try to vote to see the outcome, but thanks. I don't want to spur the decisions. Give you all a moment to complete that data. I don't know, Tina, if you're going to provide the real-time results. Okay, wonderful. All right. So very, very good dispersion of results. So definitely the winner here is managing administrative workload and resources, which is wonderful. This is what we specialize in. And definitely we'll talk more about that with our panelists from their context of being on the public side, really where the rubber meets the road. And then also supported by Kelsey, who delivers from our team. And then also there's very strong interest in just allocation of funds. We know that that's always the elephant in the room, making sure those funds go where they're supposed to go. And then also the compliance that's required there, the coordination of multiple stakeholders, which we're going to actually touch on today via a case study with Damien in Los Angeles County, which Forward helps facilitate. And then just meeting those deadlines, absolutely. All right, we're going to have an eventful time today. Thank you all for providing that, your pain points, and we'll definitely make sure we touch on those from that context. And I'll hand it over to Kelsey now to walk us through our ethos here in Forward.
Thanks, Aja. So Forward really places communities at the heart of the program design and implementation process. We ensure that the solutions are tailored to the local needs and your priorities in your communities. We team up with local governments, nonprofits, community groups, to really amplify every dollar spent, whether it's ARPA dollars or otherwise. Our technology really makes the program administration transparent, accountable, and I think in response to the poll results, hopefully more efficient. Through thought partnership with our ongoing tools and training, we really are able to support an effective programs, really sustainable programs. And we share what works from successful programs nationwide, so to speak to some of the stuff that Damien has been able to implement in Los Angeles, we're then able to add that as a layer when talking with Becca about her GBI programs in St. Louis. And so it's really great to be able to kind of, like I said, have that thought partnership nationwide with some of these programs that we're assisting to administer. Next slide, please, Tina. Forward, we really provide that end-to-end program administration service. So, from rental assistance to housing services, even small business loans, we've done weatherization rebates and lots of cash assistance programs. We oversee every facet of the program administration, facility. So from initial design, working with, cities and counties, to the collection of the applications through eligibility determinations, all the way to payment processing. And then I think for, hopefully music to your all ears, that compliance reporting part, we do it all. Our success really comes from two different factors. So first off, our internal team, we have 80% of our internal team having background in the public sector and nonprofits. So we have a really deep understanding of the challenges that you all face. We understand that those compliance components in the ways that you understand them. And then also, secondly, we leveraged our firsthand experience. We've designed this technology to manage programs and cases efficiently, accurately, and in a cost-effective way, because we've done it before on the back end and without these tools. And so in the creation of these tools, we've been able to have that lens. So I'm going to turn it again to Tina to have another poll about kind of to temp check what areas of that you believe, the ARPA funds have had most potential to impact in your community. So with that, Tina, can you start that one for us, please?
Okay, I think those results are in.
I can't see them.
I'll share them now and then so our participants have shared that they've used this opportunity to make an impact in infrastructure, 73%, which is very strong. And then the close second is, well, not close second, but second is public health initiatives. So very much connecting and servicing community, and then economic recovery and job creation. It's a powerful opportunity. And then also addressing housing and homelessness prevention, very strategic use of funds. So that's generally where resources have gone for this group today. I'll hand it back to you, Kelsey.
Great. Thanks. Well, so now I kind of wanted to pivot to talk a little bit more about, to respond to some of your results from that poll about some creative ways that some other cities and counties have stood up programs with ARPA dollars. So with that, Tina, can you go to the next slide? We wanted to open this up to give Damien a chance to talk a little bit about an overview of the LA Empower You program, the LA Empower You Fund, and its primary kind of objectives in supporting survivors of domestic violence. So Damien?
Okay. Hi, okay. I'm having a little bit of connection issues, but I think, am I to speak on the program now?
Yes, please, thanks. Just give us a little overview of kind of the program and how how and why LA decided to stand up this program with some ARPA dollars.
Okay. Hi, okay, speak now.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I have you. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Mhm.
So my internet's a little buggy this morning, so we'll get through this. But this program began taking shape in 2021 through 2022. And we worked with a group called Free From and with other CBO organizations that are, here in the county, and with our public health department as well, just to get an idea of the scope of the problem, and then using the low barrier model that Free From has used to assist people in domestic violence situations. So we were using the $2,500 amount to get to people who are suffering from domestic violence situations. And like it says, relocation, so housing is one of the main issues that people face when getting out of domestic violence situations, medical bills because of abuse, and then other costs, maybe doing training for jobs, doing, something to get a car, things of that nature. So with that in place, we did an RFP, which Kelsey and the Forward team applied for about a year ago. And we went through that entire process, and the original amount was 2.5 million, just to get to 1,000 survivors. And using their system, that was the thing that really stood out in their proposal. It wasn't necessarily doing services for for the survivors, but getting the assistance to the survivors. So we had the gift card model where we had a simple application, maybe about 10 questions or so. And the people would answer those, but they had to work with one of the CBOs that are listed here in collaboration, local CBOs. So they had to be tied to one of these organizations. And then they were given wraparound services and access to the gift card for the $2,500. So over the year, we've been tracking the spending, tracking success stories, and so many people have been able to get out of those situations. They've been able to get out of financial abusive situations, physically abusive situations, get schooling, get housing, get jobs. And it's just been so incredibly successful. So then we added another almost $1 million a few months ago, and we're about to do another amendment for another 4 million in the next month or so. And although it's tragic that the monies are needed and are moving so quickly, the other side of the coin is that we're actually assisting people to get out of these situations, before they escalate to something more dangerous.
Yeah.
There any other questions that?
Yeah, I was hoping maybe Damien, you could speak a little bit to how the partnership with the 6 different nonprofits that are, also in the county, how that's kind of enhanced the impact of the Empower You
So
program.
in that regard, the county's huge. So there's 5 districts, and each supervisor of each district oversees 2 million people. So you're dealing with communities, East LA and downtown LA, they're reasonably close. Then there's South Central or South LA. And that even runs all the way down to the city of Long Beach, if you're familiar with Los Angeles. So it's like 30 miles south. And then there's 60 miles north where we have Three Heart Connection, which is in the Palmdale, Lancaster area. And there's so few resources out there. And they're actually one of our highest usage areas, just because people are isolated in those areas, and it just seems like they may be more prone to being in abusive situations that they can't get out of because there's just a lack of nonprofits and social services in that area. So there's like being able to reach the geography that is Los Angeles County. The partnerships are like, we wouldn't be able to do the program without the partnerships. And then language barriers, the partners, because they're in the community, they understand the community, they understand the languages, and the women are able to, mostly women, are able to get assistance, LGBTQ, and and even men who find themselves in these positions. So the partnerships are key to the success of the program.
Great. And I think Damien selling himself short as well. This is an incredible program in that there has been 0 fraud in this program because of this partnership model. Applicants are identified via these strategic CBOs, and therefore the CBOs are able to ensure that the applicants are, eligible for the program, and they're able to kind of make sure that there's not any sort of widespread fraud in an otherwise very
Thank you
program. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of one final point I wanted to bring up, Damien, before we move on to the GBI program was there any sort of strategies that were implemented to ensure that the Empower You Fund was really making sure to meet the needs of the survivors? And in discussing this, kind of talking about potentially how the spending data has been, how you have been able to use that spending data to advocate for these additional funds that have been able to be approved.
Okay, I didn't quite catch all of the question, but I'll try to do the best I can because, from all our discussions over the time. So like the things that came out were like the food insecurity, things of that nature. So we want to look at that in the future. And then the amount of funds that have now in the summer months been used towards housing, as people tend to move after their children finish the school year. And then just regular items, clothing, and like transportation's a huge one because you kind of need a car to get around LA effectively. And so the things that we thought people would need, we're seeing those things, but I was really surprised by that food insecurity. But if you think about it, just with inflation and with the cost of food and people having children, teenage children, food bills can get quite high.
Yeah, and I think standing up a program with ARPA dollars where we were able to fund it using these cash cards, where we could then, have the data for the county to show, how the funds were effectively used. Damien and his team in LA are able to then go back to their stakeholders, their policymakers, and really say, hey, we had this pilot ARPA program, but here's the data. Here's how we need this program to potentially, fund it in a permanent manner with some permanent dollars. So again, it was a great model. So with that, I think we'll turn over to Becca. I wanted to talk a little bit about Becca's Guaranteed Basic Income program in the city of St. Louis. So Becca, can you give us a quick kind of overview of the program and how the ARPA funds have been able to support this initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did our first Guaranteed Basic Income pilot in the city of St. Louis, and it was the first Guaranteed Basic Income pilot in the state of Missouri. So this is something that our mayor, Tishara Jones, really wanted to instill, and we were able to get the Board of Aldermen to approve it. And we allocated $5 million from ARPA dollars to give $500 a month to families in the city of St. Louis who were at 180% or below of the federal poverty level and had children enrolled in either a St. Louis City public school or a St. Louis City charter, which is also public, but it's just slightly different designation. So we had over 5,500 applicants, and we knew that there were many more who were unfortunately eligible. And we've been able to roll out the program. I think we're in like our 8th month of payments now. And partnering with Forward has been really smooth. So they were able to, we were able to work together to create that application process, vet the applications, make sure that, people were who they say they were, with as low a barrier for application as possible. We didn't want to make this an incredibly laborious process to actually get into the lottery, which then selected the 440 recipients. We were also lucky enough to partner with the Jack Dorsey Foundation, and they gave us an additional $1 million. So that $1 million basically goes to all of our overhead, so that the $5 million could really go to all 440 plus another 100 families. So 540 families are being funded at $500 a month for 18 months.
What would you say was probably the biggest challenge? And I know that you came onto this, a little bit later in the process, but what was maybe one of the biggest challenges in implementing this program, and how did the city of St. Louis overcome that?
I definitely think the biggest challenge is people's biases against people in poverty. Because some of our older people who represent low income wards were still against this and saying, like, how are these people going to spend their dollars? So that bias against, like, just in terms of direct cash assistance, not being a good use of dollars, like giving people direct cash is not a good idea, that kind of rhetoric, which we know through tons of data of direct cash assistance programs is just untrue. And we have our own data because we partner with MoCaFi, Mobility Capital Finance, and we have spending data that shows that our folks are spending things on food, housing, needs for their families, like, very basic stuff. So that was definitely the biggest hurdle. I am in a conservative state, the state of Missouri, which also doesn't like social service programs. So, it continues to be a hurdle for sure. This has not been welcomed with open arms. It's seen as like a charity, but the response we've gotten from the people is overwhelmingly positive, and some of the stories of, like, the difficult situations people are put in because of financial insecurity, food insecurity, housing insecurity, is, being able to alleviate some of that, at least for a small amount of time, overall positive.
And then how did you kind of ensure that this program was ARPA or privately funded compliant? How was that was that process when you guys were all initially setting this program up?
Yeah, we worked very closely with our city legal team in order to ensure that what we were saying was in line with the state's priorities. So one thing that I definitely would caution is, like, when you are in a government agency, like, understanding your state policies and really looking at things legally to ensure that nothing is like unconstitutional or could be seen as unconstitutional is very important. I was under the understanding that because these were federal dollars, it doesn't really matter what the state thinks, but the state has a different idea about that. So just really make your lawyer your best friend.
Great. Okay. Noted. And then finally, can you speak a little bit more about that collaboration with the community-based organizations component to this program?
Yeah, so we worked with our neighborhood. We basically have folks that work in different neighborhoods to get the word out, and then the local libraries and all the local social service nonprofits and government agencies, so that we were getting the word out. And then in terms of our formal partnerships, WashU is an institution here in the city of St. Louis who is interested in looking at the impacts of poverty on the region. And so we worked with are working with them as our data and evaluation partner to basically see, like, what is the impact of these dollars on people. And then we were able to tie into a couple of other pre-existing studies that have to do with child welfare, just looking at the notion of, like, what does it mean to fund families in poverty in terms of the relationship with the foster care system. Like, how is this actually preventative care in terms of saving dollars down the road, et cetera, et cetera. So we have, like, the more informal relationship with community partners and then formal relationships with community partners.
Great. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Asia for a couple more kind of panel discussion topics. But thanks so much, Becca and Damien, for giving an overview to the group about your specific programs.
Thank you all. Very eventful conversation. We'll have one more poll at the end of our Q&A session. And then as we just get into the discussion, if there are any just pressing questions that you all have, feel free to drop them in the chat. We may not get to every single one today, but we definitely can send a recap email with kind of the FAQs summarized to the group. And so my first question to the panelists, I call you all the gladiators doing the work, the hard work of service, the beautiful work as well. How have you all, or could you just share the context? Because although ARPA funding is very flexible, there generally are requirements in terms of, like, community engagement. And so how have you all, or kind of how important is community engagement in the process of managing and deploying ARPA funds from your respective jurisdictions? And I'll ask Becca first.
I'm probably not the best person to ask this question because everything was, like, allocated in terms of the buckets beforehand. So one thing that I was really focused on with the spending that I had control over was the dissemination of the final data, which I wanted to be more participatory. So looking at what is data, what is considered qualitative data in regards to storytelling, so that we can really engage with our participants in a way that is able to tell their story in a humanizing capacity. So that's kind of where my focus has been in terms of the ARPA dollar, like, legalese of how to disseminate those dollars. And so that is a participatory model, but in terms of, like, the previous engagement to get to this point, I'm not sure.
That's very helpful. And I'll ask kind of a follow-up question to what you share contextually to Damien. Damien, I know that a part of your program model was a bench of very effective and also very different ranging capacity community-based organizations to really service the broad county landscape. Can you share how technology has impacted the community, really the coordination of community engagement, but then also maybe
Okay.
the democratization of their ability to capture that data?
Well, I think that, like I said, that area, Lancaster, Palmdale, which is 60 miles north of downtown LA, just to be able to see the level of need there, where you might assume it was in, East LA, or there's high need in South LA. But the data was showing that it was that area of the county that had the most need, which gave that equity to the process. Because if, just because so much tradition of East LA and South LA having high needs, you would assume that's where the dollars were needed, when in fact they were needed just as much in that area to the north of us as they were in our traditional high need areas.
Very, very helpful context. Thank you for that. The next question, and I'm curious, and I'm happy to pull a few questions from the chat as well. But the next question I have here is reflecting just on your experience with ARPA and fund management. What are some just key lessons learned that you could share that would benefit communities or organizations as they navigate the fund management?
I think that, my experience with the funds has been that you really want to pay attention to the legalese surrounding the ARPA dollars, because I can almost guarantee there's going to be investigation of how funds were used. So you just want to make sure that everything is properly documented to the line. There's a justification if something feels a little creative in terms of how it's being appropriated within certain, subcategories. So I just run everything through our lawyer and make sure that I have everything documented, pre-approved, and audited if necessary, in order to, if an auditor comes through, everything is just laid out as cleanly as possible. So there's no question about intent or execution of the dollars.
Very helpful. I'm actually going to ask Kelsey a follow-up question to what Rebecca shared, and maybe you can give from Forward's perspective, kind of what is our role in ensuring that those funds are managed properly and expenditures are well documented, and all the points that Becca just pointed to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the model that we were talking about, how, there's Forward, and then there's the municipality, and then there's always, a community-based or a local presence kind of representation, boots on the ground service to these programs. And that kind of trifecta model is really valuable and really important, because Forward is able to be the fund management, the data, all the back end work. And the jurisdiction is able to pass through some treasury requirements, or whatever the funding source requirement is to us, for then us to be able to have that as a concise, cohesive model for the CBOs to then implement, versus the CBOs. A lot of times local CBOs, whether they're, large or I think most of the time is they're smaller, they're grassroots. They're a team of 6 or 3 or 10, wearing multiple different hats. And a lot of times they're not able to make sure that what cities and counties actually need are federally compliant or consistent. And so having us kind of manage that process for them, take on that back end data, take on that administration component, allows them to do what they need to do best, and what we all want them to do best, which is that advocacy and really ensuring that the community knows about this program, and that the community is able to access this program easily. And so making sure, taking that kind of off of their plate is really what we're able to do, and make sure that as well, that the cities and counties, might not have to enter into then 14 subcontracts, they enter into one, you know, and then we're able to kind of manage those subcontracts in lieu of the cities and counties, kind of making everyone's job a lot easier.
Thank you for sharing that, Kelsey. I would like to pivot to Damien and just ask Damien, with your experience, I know that the County Department of Consumer Affairs, you all manage 20 plus programs. And so how has program management shifted using technology and this model from program administration kind of now and then before our partnership? If you can just share.
Okay, well, I mean, part of it is what Kelsey just said, using you all to manage the CBOs because of all their capacity issues. And then they're only reporting, you know, like just back to you all. You all then do some of the data reporting, and then that reports back to us. So they don't have to have that IT function on top of everything else they're trying to do with direct services and managing their day-to-day operations. So that's huge, because then I'm able just to report to our admin, and they can report to the electeds, and it's just a much smoother process.
That is very helpful. I know for those of you that may have caught our webinar in April, we had one of our community-based organizations actually that worked on this particular program from Los Angeles County just share, Project Peacemakers just shared their perspective. They're a small CBO. They do big work, but they were just sharing their experience and being able to really focus on connecting with humans and just really what technology has afforded them their ability to do. So I encourage you all to just take a look at that webinar if you all have time to see from the CBO's lens. My next question, and I'm happy to take questions from the audience and even as we do our last poll question. In that these ARPA funds, obviously they are finite, and kind of what strategies are you all thinking about? What are you kind of working on to really ensure that there's sustainability, and maybe not necessarily in the actual program, but in the effort of servicing that particular population? Just curious about how you all are thinking about the continuity of this work post-ARPA.
So I can jump in just on our VITA program, the tax assistance program. So the Department of Treasury had a grant recently that we applied for using our partnership that exists from the ARPA funds to submit what I believe is a strong application to keep that service going. And, you know, as the county being a large entity and having all these partners, I think it's going to bode well. So we're hoping to hear back soon. And that's a recurring grant that the county hadn't even applied for in the past because we were just using our local CBOs and then assisting them.
Okay, wonderful. Well, hopefully you all will be successful there. Becca, I'm just curious from you all, what are you all thinking about from St. Louis?
Yeah, things are a little segmented in terms of like the mayor's office and the treasurer's office. So we at the treasurer's office are working collectively with some collective impact groups that are working on foster care prevention. So, which is kind of a crisis in the area in terms of numbers, but kids in foster care. So we've been working with different nonprofits and government agencies who are interested in that problem to see if we can help up other GBI programs. There's been rumors that there will be more GBI programs in the city of St. Louis, but also, to be frank, there's because we are in a conservative state and because there's some anti-GBI legislation that's moving around nationally, we're unsure what that looks like with public dollars versus private dollars. So that's why I'm trying to work with friends to get private funds set up. So I'm not exactly sure what the future of the city of St. Louis and GBI is, but we're trying to create basically, you know, a movement of family welfare preventative cash assistance within the state of Missouri.
One thing Damien and I have talked a lot about with the Empower You program is talking about it as from pilot to policy. And you know, ARPA really allows for that. You can create a pretty allowable low barrier pilot program with ARPA dollars and have really strong data associated with it in order to advocate for the pilot program to become permanent policy. And it's complicated, obviously, to take it from a one-time lump sum massive funding source to try and find some sort of permanent funding source to do that, whether, to Becca's point, it's private funding in the interim or whatever it might be, general funds. But having some really strong data to support the need for it, the community need for it, is definitely the first step. And making sure that you know, even allocating some of the ARPA dollars to have that study done with it. You know, Becca has funds that she was able to they were able to allocate for WashU to do a study on the program. You know, we're doing a full impact report for Empower You in LA. So it's not just the pilot data, but there's a whole actual study, you know, with those ARPA dollars associated with it, so that they have, you know, these communities have hard data and evidence to support turning it from pilot to policy. So I can't coin that term, that's Damien's, but I love it.
Yeah, that was a good one. And just to follow quickly on what you're saying, because we always talk about the government doesn't have a problem spending money, but we wonder about the outcomes. And so we're part of our impact report is using some CDC data on domestic violence and then the number of domestic violence reported arrests here in LA County. So it's like 10,000 arrests. So you guys can do your quick math when you have a chance. And then the CDC says the societal cost to domestic violence is 100,000 and probably more now. But that included, you know, courts, police, fire departments, mental health workers, lost days at work, lost days from school, lost housing. So it adds up quickly. And I mean, just to give you an idea, it's like $1 billion worth of lost cost to society. And we're working with what, 7.4 million now, which is a lot less than $1 billion. And it's the same thing across the board, right? How much does homelessness cost? Like our fire department had to put out less encampment fires because we're putting people in housing. So, and we actually had a firefighter hurt pretty bad because there was an encampment that had either a live grenade or some type of explosive propane. So how many firefighters do you want to lose and have to deal with all that fallout? So think about the true cost of, you know, how we're operating now and what we could be doing in the future to be more effective and more efficient with these dollars.
Yeah, and to Kelsey's point and Damien's point, like I think we have a real opportunity here with our ARPA dollars in terms of the data dissemination of crafting a narrative that is evidence-backed through qualitative and quantitative analysis, you know, woven in with the human narrative, but that economic aspect I think is really, really important to show, like, yeah, what do these preventative measures actually save us societally? So you kind of, if you have the time and the means in order to actually craft that properly and tie that into other studies that are already going on, there's so many people doing really good work in our nation. Like, don't discount the work that's already done, like talking to folks, talking to scholars, researchers, those communities of practice to figure out, like, how do I fit into this narrative? How am I aiding the narrative in order to make those policy changes that somebody will finally hear down the road? Who knows when?
Absolutely. And just in the public space, you all touched on this so powerfully, but just to underline, the data is such a powerful element to have the ammunition to speak to the issues that are happening in our communities that we're all very just committed to impacting, but then really very much having the strength to say, you know, there's a better way to use public dollars. There's a return on investment that's much higher when we invest in various areas. And the last thing I want to just touch on is just equity. A big part of ARPA is to really focus on the equity in administration and really connecting with those hard to reach populations that very much have been highest impacted the greatest in the pandemic. And so the powerful element of for which some of my favorite things is just really being able to down to the neighborhood make recommendations about where resources should go to empower our partners that are very much doing the work. We know that government is not designed to run the multitude of programs that it's taxed to run. And so being able to empower our partners with the data that they need to really make evidence-based decisions down to the neighborhood is a very powerful tool that I wish I had in my 20 years of service. And so I want to just ask the quick question about how have your organization's ability to make evidence-based decisions shifted with the application of robust technology?
Well, in terms of our application process, we worked with WashU to identify the highest needs portions of different wards and then favored those in the lottery process in terms of like a heavier weight. So that was our approach to equitable access, in addition to like on the ground discussions with service providers who touch folks who, you know, might be unhoused, might be in difficult circumstances where it's harder to get information to them. So, you know, trying to figure out like how do we get information to folks who aren't accessing information regularly was also something that we were really focused on during the pre-application and application process.
Thank you for that. Damien, you have some insights to share?
I mean, basically, we were able to do some shifting of our priority list during our program for people who had maybe pending court cases, language issues, housing issues, just to give them a little more boost in the selection process. So having that data and being able to, shift priorities and make sure we're helping the most in need is, you know, it helps, right? Because you're making sure you're hitting the people that need the assistance the most, and you're using data to make those decisions.
Thank you. I also want to just ask Kelsey and integrate her into this. She and her team are really at the apex of this work and can give just a national perspective, like how are states, agencies, local communities, how have you experienced the power of data to really shift some of the areas that Becca and Damien touched on, from the application process to the selection process, even to the lottery? Can you just share a little bit about how you all have shifted in real time based on what data is telling you?
Yeah, we create dashboards for our programs to be able to have kind of all the decision makers or, you know, stakeholders be able to watch these programs in real time and pivot as needed. And I have yet to see a program that hasn't pivoted mid-program because of that capability. You know, being able to be nimble and say, you know, in Damien's case, oh no, we're not getting enough applications from this, you know, part of the county. Or in Becca's case, we need to make sure that this ward gets some more applications from it, or, you know, whatever it might be. We were able to do that with the data coming in real time. And a lot of programs that are just kind of managed via potentially segmented, you know, CBOs or nonprofits aren't able to be that nimble and that quick. And so it's a great way to ensure equity with this extremely, you know, relatively speaking, extremely low barrier funding source that doesn't require a lot of that from the get-go. And so you can have a lot of really great data to ensure equity and making sure that when applications are coming in programs or even in the planning processes that you're highlighting, you know, targets. And if targets aren't met, kind of what's the plan going to be? What are we going to do? What is our strategy is important, because like I said, I've yet to see something where we haven't needed to deploy one of those strategies. We always will be able to use that in real time to be able to deploy those mechanisms. And whether it's, like I said, social media posts or another maybe an application event or some sort of a CBO, you know, having an event at one of their locations, whatever it might be, to ensure that we get the word out about these programs is really important, and having the real data to know if that's needed is important. Again, in Becca's case as well, we had extremely high volume of applications for this program. We knew that the need was going to be absolutely over the moon in this community. And we had even a very small application window. And so really being targeted about how we make sure that these thousands of people that are wanting, they're trying to get this incredible program, that we can ensure equity among that was really important. And having kind of ways to be able to watch the data was of utmost importance.
Thank you for that, Kelsey. Well, I know that we have concluded our time today, and there is just one more quick poll. As Tina loads this poll and you all have a chance to answer, I also want to just invite you all to connect with us. We enjoy the work that we do. 85% of Forward's team comes from the public sector or the nonprofit sector. And so book a strategy session. There's no, strings attached. We love to just hear and what you all are dealing with real time in the marketplace, and it really helps inform the way that we deliver and partner with you all. And so we'll let these results come in. Again, there's a link in the chat. You can just click that and you'll be linked in with one of our team members with Forward to just hear what you're working on, hear what you're thinking about. It's always really a powerful point to just get some intel about how other agencies are really navigating your challenges that you're doing. We're all a network doing this work, connecting with people and families, businesses. So it's really great to lean on the data that we have, which we freely share. And so you all have indicated really strong data here. So increased staffing and administrative support are really what you need with ARPA. Really happy to talk with you all about how we could partner in providing and augmenting your teams. Also, the reporting is a second priority, which we completely understand. The reporting tools and software, that is what Forward does very strongly. We're happy to just share some detailed dashboards, just show you all how easy and customizable in real time. I can't underscore the power of real-time data. This is not a summative, responsive report after things have passed. This is real-time data to empower you all to make like real-time decisions, as Kelsey eloquently shared. And then also the last two ties are peer support networking, here for that, guidance on compliance. We are here to be a resource. We're here to be partners. I encourage you all to also, as you navigate our website, there's a really powerful just knowledge base, lots of resources there where we are continuing to share what we're learning in the marketplace from you all. So again, thank you so much for being with us. I want to just thank our panelists. They are amazing public servants. Damien and Rebecca, thank you for being with us today. Oh, yes,
Okay.
Damien.
Yeah, I just want to close out because we talked about deadlines. Forward's also very good at assisting with timelines and really making sure that you're putting everything that you need in place for your projects. So we want you to not count on the month of December to throw a Hail Mary to get your project across the line. We really want you to think about like what are some low-hanging fruit in your community, things your council would pass, things that aren't going to have too many roadblocks, because 6 months can go by in the blink of an eye. And so if you can partner with Forward to assist you, do it, because these are once in a lifetime kind of dollars that you can really assist your communities. So
thank you for that, Damien. A powerful way to close. We are experts in catching Hail Marys and doing an audible. We have launched programs in 4 to 6 weeks. Don't recommend it, but we can make it happen. So please reach out to us. We'll love to start early. Kelsey's team is just amazing. They've been in your spaces, and they really want to, they go to great lengths to make sure that you all are successful. So look forward to partnering with you all in the future. Thank you for your service, and wonderful to spend time with you all today. Take care. Thank you.
all right, guys, thanks. Bye.